Today, we're going to talk about maintaining these older Audi R8s. This video is for you Audi R8 owners of these older cars, specifically 2007 to 2012, pre-facelift Generation 1. So, after owning and maintaining my car for a year and a half, I came across some issues on the car that could have been easily prevented had I known. If left unchecked, it can become a huge headache for you in the future. So, for current owners and future owners of these older cars, heed my advice. Watch out for these 4 things when maintaining your older Gen 1 Audi R8. First, we need to talk about the manual release cords on the R8 for the front trunk or frunk, as well as the emergency gas cap release towards the back of the car. Most R8s typically do not get driven that often, and you may run into an issue with a drained battery. In order to jumpstart your R8, you need to access the battery in the front of the car, and that battery is located in the frunk. In order to open the frunk, the car uses an electronic motor to pull on the latch and release the frunk. However, you need electricity to operate the motor. If the battery is dead, therefore, you will not be able to open the frunk. Audi designers did design a failsafe by creating an emergency release cable located underneath the glove box. Therefore, you need to look under the glove box area right now and see if there is a cable with an orange handle. If you don't see it, chances are the cable is tucked in between the crevices there. You may have to take out the entire glove box to find the cable. Once you find this cable, I recommend just leave the cable hanging underneath the glove box for easy access. This will save your skin if you ever have a drained battery. I also want to mention the frunk nylon linkage. This is a linkage that the motor uses to pull on the latch in order to release the hood. These nylon linkages are notorious for breaking in older R8s because they are made of nylon and not metal. I actually had this happen to me, and I had to use my emergency release cable to access the front compartment for a month. I actually recommend you find a machinist who can fabricate a metal piece that replaces the front nylon linkage. This way, you'll guarantee the hood will always open at the push of a button. The last cable you should make sure you have easy access to is the emergency fuel cap release cable towards the back of the car. You typically open the fuel cap with a button on the driver's side, and the little electronic actuator that releases the fuel cap may break. Therefore, Audi added a manual release cable that runs along the same side of the fuel cap, and it should be located near the airbox here. I recommend you stow this cable underneath the bump stop for the rear hatch here. If you don't see this cable at all, it means that the cable is buried somewhere near the rear frame and wheel well. You may have to take the wheel well off and look for this cable. Trust me, the time to do this will be well worth it. You do not want to get stuck on the road without the ability to fill up the car. Okay, coming in on the second tip. If you do your own oil changes, you don't need to tighten the oil filter that much when replacing the filter. The plastic housing that contains the oil filter can crack if you over-tighten it, causing an oil leak. It's one of the most overlooked procedures that can lead to a lot of headaches. So yeah, for the oil filter, go easy on it when you hand tighten it, and you don't really need to over tighten it that much at all. Third tip. Alright, this one really caught me off guard when I was manual swapping the R8 a few months ago. There was an insane amount of rust on top of the transmission carrier bolts as well as the transmission mounts. Even though the car was 14 years old, the level of rust I saw did not just occur naturally, because the buildup was insane. I came to the conclusion that the only way for this amount of water to directly pool in these areas would be a result of washing the engine bay with water. I suspect previous owners wash the engine not knowing that there were crevices where water can pool, causing all of this rust. If you want to wash your engine bay, just use a damp rag to wipe down the dust. You can also use steam or dry ice too, but never ever use water for your R8 or you will end up with an insane amount of rusted bolts. So, I recommend you check these areas whenever you get a chance. Remove the air box, check the top of the transmission and see if there's any rust. And if you happen to be replacing your exhaust or maybe doing an actual manual swap like what I did, look at those transmission mounts and see if there's a lot of rust. If you find out your bolts are rusted, then I highly recommend you invest the time to remove the rust from these bolts to prevent any future headaches. Finally, let's talk about rivet nuts. Well, what are they? They are rivets with threads in them to quickly install threads in a metal part. For example, you may want to install some threads in sheet metal allowing you to secure it. Well, the Audi R8 uses these rivet nuts everywhere on the frame of the car. I've talked with several R8 technicians and they've told me that these rivet nuts are known to corrode and loosen in the frame. This means that in the process of unscrewing or screwing in a bolt, the rivet nut would loosen and it would just spin. Literally, the bolt will just spin on itself and it will not loosen or screw in. This actually happened to me when I was trying to uninstall my airbox. There was one screw that I could not unscrew because the rivet nut failed. It loosened from the frame and the screw was just spinning upon itself. I didn't have the special tools to remove that rivet nut and I ended up having to take it to a shop to replace the nut. That one nut set my project back at least 2 weeks. I've now made it a best practice for myself to hit any rivet nut I see that's on the frame with some lubricant like WD-40 to prevent corrosion and reduce screw effort as well. So there we have it. Those are the 4 best practices I've picked up along the way during my R8 ownership. 1. Have easy access to those manual release cords. They will save your bacon when you need it. 2. Go easy when screwing on the oil filter housing to prevent oil leaks. Number 3. Absolutely do not wash your engine bay with water. Just use a damp rag to clean up any dust you see and some degreaser if you need it. And yes, lubricate those rivet nuts and go easy on them. One loose rivet nut on this car can stall your project flat out. Hope you enjoyed these quick tips. Smash the like and subscribe button to help support the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.